Hi guys, so today I wanted to talk about three things that I think are sort of mystical beliefs about the undertone in the color analysis community. Most of the things that I will say in this video only apply if you are doing color analysis in real life. When we start to deal with photos, we have to really take a closer look and we have to use some critical thinking as well to piece together the entire picture of someone's coloring. So if you guys are interested in how I do my color consults from photos alone, then let me know and I will make that video. It will be a separate video. So let's get into these three misconceptions, what I believe are misconceptions anyway, about color analysis. So these are the three things I want to talk about. The first thing is that draping is absolutely necessary, even in person, to tell someone's undertone. The next thing is that the undertone is underneath the skin, an actual thing that's underneath the skin. And finally, that leads me into, do you need a spacesuit to do color analysis? So you know those color analysis outfits that people wear and they drape the whole room in white and then they wear stuff over their hair sometimes and an entire white cloth over themselves. Is that really necessary? So I want to get into all of that in this video, but first let's start with, is draping necessary? So when we take a look at this red, I might ask you, and if you saw this red in real life, is this a cool red or a warm red? And most of you guys would say that it's a cool red. You can pretty easily see that it's a cool red. I don't think you need too much training for your eye or anything like that to tell that it's a pretty cool red. It's almost magenta, so it has a blue undertone to it. So it's red with a blue undertone, so it's cool. And we didn't have to do any draping to figure out that this is a cool red. We can sort of just look at it and tell that it's cool. However, it does make it a lot easier to tell that it's cool when you compare it to a warm red. Now, of course, if any of you were doubting, you can see that compared to the warm red, this red on the left is definitely cool. And indeed, if I try to make this cool red out of a relatively neutral red, it's hard to really pick a neutral red because they don't really exist. There's only the idea of it, but a relatively neutral red with a little bit of blue added to it, and you can see I just screenshotted that exact block of the color and I put it onto the fabric, and you can see that the color on the left is a mixture of pretty neutral red and a bit of blue, so that's why it's a cool red. So cool red is red with a blue undertone. So I have a video that I'll link down below on what I consider to be cool and warm colors and what makes a color cool or warm. But the colors that I think can be both cool and warm at the same time, depending on the undertone, are red, green, browns and beiges, and gray. Everything else, like purple, is always cool. It doesn't really matter if it's a quote warm purple or cool purple. Yellow is always warm. Doesn't matter if it's a warm yellow or a quote cool yellow, and I also have a video on that I'll link down below. But here we have the colors that can actually be cool and warm, and we can still call them that color. We have cool red and cool green, cool browns, cool beiges, warm browns, warm beiges, cool grays, warm grays. So when we think about skin, we have to think about beige and brown. And this is where we get into a cool beige or a cool cream or ivory, whatever that is, a cool beige on the left and a warm beige on the right. And this is exactly how it works with skin. We don't need to drape anything to be able to tell that a color is cool or warm if we train our eye enough, and it becomes harder with beiges and with browns. For some reason, it is a lot harder to tell if it's cool or warm. With red, it's a little bit easier. So draping is definitely something that is extremely helpful, and I don't see why we shouldn't do it and shouldn't continue to do it. If it's something that can confirm how we're color typing someone, I don't see why we would stop draping people. But what I want to get at is that it's not necessary. If I saw Aishwarya in real life, and this is the color of her skin that I am looking at in real life, I would probably guess her color type consistent with the drapings and the photos that I've seen of her. And I think you would too. I think you would guess that she is warm because her skin is a warm beige. But people like Aishwarya could easily be mistyped as cool, despite the color analyst seeing that she clearly has a golden overtone to her, a golden undertone. It doesn't matter, overtone, undertone, these are just words. The point is there's more yellow in her skin than blue, so that makes her warm. And the reason why all of this could happen is because Aishwarya is warm and delicate, not warm and radiant. And I have an entire video on this, and it's called Golden Overtones with Cool Undertones. And if you take a look at Nazanin's skin, assuming this photo is true to the color of her skin in real life, if you saw her and this is what she looked like right in front of you in daylight, you could probably say that her skin is a cool beige. So she is a cool undertone. And indeed, when I take this relatively neutral pink, I did my best to find a relatively neutral pink, not warm, not cool, and I overlay a little bit of yellow over it. You can see that Aishwarya's skin has almost no blue to it, or a negligible amount of blue, so I was able to make something pretty close to her skin tone with just a neutral red and a yellow. And of course I took screenshots and just put it right next to her arm there, that swatch, that color swatch, so that you could see that it matches her skin pretty well. So she doesn't have that much blue in her skin, she obviously has more yellow, so she is warm. If we do a similar thing for Nazanin, we can see that it gets a tiny bit more complicated because now we are adding some blue to the color. And you can see, again, I just took that swatch and put it right against her arm, and it looks like it's a pretty close color to her skin tone that I was able to make. And what we want to find out is there more of a value contribution from the blue or from the yellow? That is more of this color made up of blue, or is more of this color, her skin color, made up of yellow? And to do that, I want to make this photo on the left black and white and try to see if one of the circles, the blue or the yellow, is darker. And that way we can tell that if it's darker, there's more of that pigment, and that is going to be the color that contributes to her skin tone more. Now, it's a really subtle difference, so you might not be able to tell looking at this here, or maybe you can tell that the blue is a teeny tiny bit darker, but you can also tell if I take these squares and put them right next to each other that the blue square, so the value contribution of the blue, is in this case slightly darker than the value contribution of the yellow. So that color of her skin is literally cool. It's a cool color. And I hope you can see the subtle difference between these two blocks, but if you tilt your screen, maybe you'll be able to see sort of that one of them is really darker than the other. So the blue is slightly darker than the other. So there's more blue to her skin than yellow. So she is a cool undertone. And just like there's nothing underneath that red fabric that is making it blue, there's no blue film underneath the red fabric making it a cool red. It's simply the pigments all mixed together, and the predominant amount of that pigment is red and a little bit of it is blue. That's why it's an undertone and not an overtone. So that red is a cool red. We didn't have to drape to tell that it's a cool red. And likewise, if we take a look at Nazanin and if we train our eye and we see her in daylight, emphasis on seeing her in real life in daylight, not just from photos. From photos, it's more complicated. Again, I can make a video on that if you guys want. But if you see her just like this, you should be able to tell that she is cool if you look at enough people and get a sense of sort of what makes up different colors of the skin. So the red color is, you could technically call it a red overtone with a blue undertone. And likewise, Nazanin's skin color is a beige overtone with a blue undertone. And remember, since beige and red can both be neutral, that means that if they have a blue undertone, they become cool colors. And if beige or red have a warm undertone, they're actually warm colors. So yeah, there's nothing underneath the skin, there's nothing underneath the fabric that's making it cool. It's just a mixture of a little bit of blue added into the skin, and I just really hope that we can get rid of this mysticism in the community, that you need all of this draping because you're only reading overtones if you don't have draping. I don't think that's true whatsoever. at all. The reason why I personally think that this mysticism tends to exist is because of the golden overtones with cool undertones issue, where a lot of warm and delicate undertones get mistyped as cool for various reasons that I don't want to get into in this video, but I do have a video on that. I hope you guys watch it. But there's nothing mystical about the skin color. There's nothing underneath it. There's nothing about it. It's simply a color, and we're trying to see if it has more blue or more yellow in it. It doesn't have to be complicated. But for virtual color analysis, you do need color draping, you do need a lot of photos, and you need to make sure that you're getting a complete picture of someone's coloring. But going back to real life color analysis again, I do want to talk about the spacesuit thing because it's super entertaining at first and it could be kind of funny, but at the end of the day, it's not funny at all to me because it really undermines the entire validity of color analysis as a whole. So the idea behind the spacesuit and the shower caps, etc., if you guys are not familiar, is that the light from your shirt as a color analyst or the light from something in the room could reflect onto the person that you're color analyzing, and that could make them warmer or cooler or some other color and just mess with the color analysis. Now, I do agree with this to some extent, for sure. I think there is actually a really good point there, and it's something to look out for if you have a ridiculously yellow wall right in front of the person you're color analyzing. That's not very wise. But if you have a situation like this where you have a different colored room, which is a natural environment, that's probably where you'll be wearing the colors that you were told to wear by your color analyst. You'll be wearing them in a natural environment with all kinds of different colors. And then your color analyst is dressed like this, and people are like, oh my god, tomato red top, this is going to be a disaster. The person is going to be mistyped as warm because the tomato red will reflect on their skin. I personally, do I think it's going to kind of alter the color analysis? Maybe like 2%. Maybe if the color analyst is standing 2 inches away from the person's face with that tomato red top, but that would be inappropriate. She would be standing 2 feet away or so. That's not going to really reflect that much on the person, realistically speaking. Obviously, if there's an extreme example where a color analyst wears this outfit and tries to do your color analysis in this yellow room, then, of course, it's going to mess with the color analysis, of course. But if you just have a natural situation that has all kinds of different colors in it, you really shouldn't have to do anything more. And it's not like we walk by the black pillow and all of a sudden become, or the white couch and the black pillow all of a sudden become cool and radiant. And then we walk by the burgundy cool red colored flower and we become cool and delicate. And then we walk by the tomato red and the orange on that pillow and become warm and radiant. And then we become warm and delicate when the wood reflects on us. Like, that's not how it works. That's not going to happen. And honestly, if it did, this is where I get kind of annoyed because it would just completely not matter to do color analysis. It completely would not matter because every time someone with a yellow top walked by Nazanin, she would all of a sudden become warm, and all of a sudden the color she's wearing doesn't work for her. Hopefully, the colors that we give our clients as color analysts are much more robust than that, and hopefully the effects of the colors, and you guys know, if you're watching this, you know how colors have an effect on our skin and how that effect is not small. It's a pretty large effect. So it's not something that's just going to disappear if you are, as a color analyst, wearing a tomato red top 3 feet away from your client. And if it was that fragile, we would all be out of business. Of course, we don't have to be in a white room with everyone wearing white for us to tell that colors look great on us. If we go out into the real world and we have different colors reflecting on us here and there, things like that, we are still going to look amazing in our best colors. And that's hopefully the whole point of color analysis. So that's it, you guys. That's not all I have to say. I want to also talk about why I even made this video at all. Well, it's really because I feel like With color analysis, there is a lot of mystical things, a lot of very, very subjective, fluffy types of things that are added on to basically some broken ideas, like with what makes a color warm and cool, and mixed into that are some desires of clients, like, oh, I want to wear all the colors in the rainbow. If I go to a color analyst, they'll tell me I can do that. That's not realistic in my opinion. So all of that, all of this mixed together is creating an environment where we are succumbing to mysticism, because when things don't make sense, people succumb to mysticism. And this makes color analysis seem kind of nonsensical to an outsider potentially, and it prevents more people from learning about color analysis and actually seeing, hey, it's not that complicated, it makes sense, I can see it works for me, and this is great, I'm gonna move on with my life looking great. You know, this is what my goal is, and I feel like seeing the reasons why the undertone is seen as mystical is a whole host of reasons, and there are honest reasons, there are financial reasons, there are both, there is mysticism. So everything is needlessly complicated, and next thing you know, we have things like golden overtones with cool undertones, and we're dressing up in spacesuits and basically alienating people. That's just my opinion. I don't think that's going to save me this time. It is just my opinion. I'm aware that it's only my opinion, and I don't mean any disrespect to the field. I love color analysis. I am looking to contribute what I've found to learn more, and I'm always looking to learn more. So if you guys find that there's something really, really off about this video, if there's some mistake that I made here, or you think I made a mistake, or you think I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I will leave a link to my color consults down below, and leave some comments, and I'll talk to you next time.